Hi, David Odell here with Odell Complete Concrete, and we have arrived on a new job site starting right now. We have Eric here. We're gonna pull this chain link fence down. Then we're gonna build a block wall adjoining with the existing wall. Then we're gonna come down here at some point. We're gonna leave about a 14-foot opening in here. We're gonna put a double swing wrought iron gates. This wall has some damage, so it's gonna come out. You can see that. I mean, for the most part, oh, you can see the whole thing shaking at this crack. Look at that. So that's coming out. We're gonna rebuild, and I'll show you where the problem started on this particular wall. I don't know if you remember, but we filled this swimming pool in here about a year ago, I guess it was. Turned out real nice. It's looking real good. But here's what I think started the whole problem. You see this tree cracked the wall. Basically, it broke it off the foundation. So we're knocking it out and rebuilding it.
You're not gonna like this, boss.
What? Oh, is it still?
Get it on camera.
Does it actually still work?
This is why we go with the wall. Best company yet.
Oh, it's still working. Hi, David Odell here with Odell Complete Concrete. Here we are on the new site, and we're gonna unload the CTX 100 Vermeer. Got a little breaker attachment. Later on, I'll be bringing out my hoe attachment to dig this footing along the side of that garage. But the breaker attachment, what I was using that for, I was going to use that for removing the existing footing. And you'll see I don't have much luck with that. So I ended up leaving it, and you'll see how I made the old footing work with the new wall. And this works for any case scenario. Even if you're adding on a wall, it's kind of the same procedure that you want to do. This wood that we're taking off of here, the pickets, the 2x4s, the neighbor actually wanted it. He said those are collectibles, those pickets, because they're aged. So he said to buy those was going to cost him a lot of money. So he wanted them just because of the aging process. I guess they don't make wood like they used to, in other words. Or grow wood, I should say. Oh, here we go. Here's the breaker attachment. This is why I brought this unit out here, to knock this wall over. You know, there was a time when I used a 90-pound, air-powered jackhammer horizontally on these walls, but I try to avoid doing that anymore. And then I just bring this piece of equipment out. So right now, as I'm doing this, I'm getting an idea of how they built it and why it's not lasting, and what went wrong here. I like to explore that kind of stuff as I do removal to find out what went wrong here. That way I don't have to do it again. Basically what I found, here's what I found that was wrong with this wall. They used number 3 rebar for their verticals and their horizontals, but more crucially was the verticals were number 3, and they were stabbed in. They didn't have a hook to a horizontal in the footing. They were just stabbed later, and they were probably at 4-foot centers, maybe even more. So the 3/8 rusted out pretty quickly because they were just stabbed. And typically you want at least 1/2 inch minimal for your uprights, and also for your horizontals. Either that or 2 number 3 horizontals works, but definitely with number 4 vertically. Breaking the block off of the rebar, because for recycling purposes, we can just dump this concrete. It's actually called block, but it's made from concrete. So we can grind that up and make a nice base material out of it. The steel will go back also, and that's separate recycling. You can see only one rebar vertically was left standing after this. Now, if this was built right, you'd have a lot of rebar stubbed up and it would still be standing there. It wouldn't have fell apart like that. The new design is going to be a lot different. Same size block, different color, and the rebar and the grouting, where we're going to fill the block, is going to be completely different. Here's my exploratory on the existing footing to see what that footing really looks like underground and how deep it goes. Right now, I'm kind of testing this footing to see if it's if I can reuse it, reattach to it. So I'm checking the depth for one thing. Also, I checked the width. And I couldn't get a full grasp on the width because it went underneath the pool deck so far. So I decided to go to the end of the footing over here where we are now. And I was able to take a good look at the end of this footing. And it ended right at the front of the garage door. And then this area I'm digging at right now never had a footing. It never had a block wall. It was always chain link. So right now, I'm just pushing back a lot of the weeds, trying to get an idea what's there. Inevitably, what I do is I go and get the hoe attachment, and then I dig this footing out nice and clean. Right here, it looks like they may have had a small block wall over here, but I never found a footing, which was unusual. You can see how that the neighbor's block wall was worked around this property's wall. So there had to be something there. Maybe it was just a pilaster or a short pop out. I don't know, because never did find a footing. Here's the point, and I'm just doing a little more exploratory. Also, I'm loosening up the dirt with the point. Now I'm going to clean this existing, because I've tried breaking the end of that footing out to see if I could just remove the footing and put a new one, but it wasn't coming out even with this breaker attachment. So I knew it was good enough to build off of. So now I'm changing gears here and I'm going, okay, we're not doing removal footing. So now I'm going to do an attachment. And I know there's procedures to attach these well that you have to follow, otherwise they don't attach well. And the way I'm doing it is, first of all, I'm cleaning it very well, getting all the loose block off of it. And then we're going to drill an epoxy. We just did a little laser level as well to see how level that existing footing was, and it was off. Probably 6 inches, 4 to 6 inches and 25 feet. That was the slope of it. So it was never really incorrectly. They built the wall to the slope of the alley rather than level with the lot. Here's the hoe attachment, and it's digging that out real easy. We've got Eric throwing a little water on it to keep the dust down. Now the block has arrived. So this little tractor, I do have the fork attachment. So I turned it into a forklift at this point. So I've got your breaker, your hoe, your excavator, and forklift on one piece of equipment. But I can only do a half a pallet. That's the only problem. I think it won't lift more than a half a pallet. The hydraulics would lift it, but I need a counterbalance in the back probably, and then I can pull it off. All right, here's the one side of the wall to one side of the gate opening. So at the end of that garage, we'll stop. We're going to put an A block wrapped around that 6 inch. That's what the gate will hang from. So I'm doing 1/2 inch rebar right down the middle of the footing. Here's that existing. I tried breaking it with the breaker attachment. You can see how far I got. Not very far. And I said, okay, this thing's solid. There's no sense in removing it. So I drill and drive on the end of the footing. So we're attaching these two footings together. That's the first phase. Also, I drilled into the other wall, this near side, and we did another drill and drive here. Okay, there's your string line, and that's level and the outside face of wall. So I know that that rebar, that horizontal, and the footing's got to be about 3 inches offset from that string line. And then I tied my verticals with a little 3-inch hook every 2 foot, starting 4 inches off the existing wall. That puts me in the cores of the block all the way through. So we're gonna go through about 2 yards of concrete on this entire project, from footing to grouting. So it's gonna be all hand mix. And we're using Quikrete. And I like to get bags because it's a really clean operation. I grab 2 pallets from Lowe's, and if there's anything left, I leave it on the pallet and return it. So I don't have to hold any surplus, and I don't have to mess with it. It doesn't get old on me. And it looks like Quikrete, I've been using Quikrete for a long time, and it looks like they've improved their bag mix. They've thrown some fines in there so that you can actually put a nice trowel finish on this stuff nowadays. Before it was so gritty and clean sand, you can't really get a nice trowel on it, but they put some fines in it so that you can actually get a nice smooth finish if you wanted to. Even though this is a footing, and it doesn't really matter, but you have that option. So the rebar's off the dirt about 3 inches, that horizontal, and then my verticals are every 2 foot. It looks like I started 8 inches off the existing. The reason for that, rather than 4, is because the existing footing was in the way, so we just stepped it over to the next cell. These are all interlocking block, so you can potentially set them a little bit quicker than if you had a head joint. So there's no cement vertically up the wall at all. It's all just horizontal beds. I'm using a rubber mallet. I've got a 2 foot level. You could use a torpedo level, every now and then, and check your block to make sure that it's level across. The most crucial thing about a block wall is your first course. Once you get that in level and all your rebar's in the right place, the rest is pretty elementary. It's like, working with Legos. Notice how I had to bridge the string line for the water hose. Here's the epoxy. So what we did, first we blow all the dust off the block. Then we used the air compressor. We blew out the holes that we drilled. We drilled 5/8 or 9/16 holes for 1/2 inch rebar. We blew them out with high pressure air. Then we brushed, and then we epoxied 6 inches deep. Now that's how you want to do an attachment. You can do that. I mean, a lot of times block walls, that top bond beam will have a solid concrete in it, so you can attach there if you're going to go up on a wall. If it doesn't have a bond beam across the top, it's real hard to attach to. So the way this one's going to be, 2 foot vertical solid filled, and then also a bond beam across the entire top with rebar in it tying to the verticals. And then we're going to do a bend drop in on the A block at each end of the gate opening. Then we'll have 2 verticals in each A block tying to that horizontal overhead. So super strong. And you got to build them that way, because you might get a 90-mile-an-hour wind out here occasionally. And if you've got gates, large gates on a wall, if that wall's not strong, the gate's coming down with the wall. Got it all epoxied in. I put a couple protectors on the top of these rebars because we're in the alley here, and we did an overnighter. So we always put the protection on the bar in case someone's going through the alley and doesn't fall on these rebars or get pierced. Here's the concrete glue going on. So we have it really clean here. This is, you can relate this to doing a crown on your teeth or something of that nature, or a filling. You got to get it really clean, dry, put your bonder, and then put whatever you want on it. And then of course we've got the dowels for your permanent teeth too. Same technique, just on a larger scale. Notice how I'm holding that form just with some block, real simple. I can't drive stakes because the existing footing is probably 2 feet wide in that area. So this is going to be my level concrete footing that I'm going to work off of. You could call this a starter wall. Here's that A block I was talking about. You see the marks that I had on there on the concrete? There's your gate opening, and I got to the end and I hit it on the money. Although I'm having these wrought iron gates custom built anyway, so it didn't really matter. But it's always nice when you put a mark and then you start working from one end on your block and then you go, wow, I hit that mark I put there. That's kind of rare. We got colored mortar going in. This mortar will match the block when it cures out. There's your 2 1/2-inch verts. They're going to end up running up to the top and bending over to the bond beam all the way through. What I'm going to do is just build my ends. I've got 2 25-foot sections on either side of the gate opening. So I'm just going to throw a couple blocks up here, A's. Then I'll go to the other end, throw a couple of the 6/8/16s, tie a line, and fill in the middle. And if you'll notice, I got these new pants on. They're from Milwaukee. Really nice. They got some nice clothing. I've tried some other stuff on occasion. They had some other Milwaukees that their pants, their pockets tore out really quickly, but this is a new design. These ones are pretty good and they're stretchable. They have built-in little pocket holder, reinforced pockets so you can hang your measuring tape without tearing your pockets. Oh, look at that, my block. Ooh, I made it fit. Did you see that? That was sweet. When they're tight like that and you work from both sides, you're going, wow, I got something right here. So they didn't have any of these half blocks. I mean, it's kind of, they don't have a lot of selection there. So, and I was lucky to even get these pallets of block really without a couple week delay. But so I ended up cutting all my own half block. And did I cut splits? Yeah, I cut splits as well. And the splits I used on the step downs and the footings. So the new wall's not going to really attach to the other wall. So it's going to be what we call a cold joint, because that way they can move independently from one another and it saves it from cracking. Although the footing is tied in, the wall isn't. All the joints on the wall, we're going to smooth them out with the striker, make them nice and rounded, concaved and smooth. See, out here where it's windy, it can be very windy. So what you don't want to do is build a full height 6-foot wall and then grout it, because it might get windy and blow your whole wall over before you can get concrete in it. So what I'm doing is building the entire wall in one day and grouting it. I got my footing set and poured. Then I'll do the rest of that 6-foot and fill it with concrete one day, the first 25 foot of it. And then I'll do it the same technique on the second 25 foot.
My dad, he had a job. He ended up,
And look at that, I've got a 14-inch Milwaukee battery powered cutoff saw, and I've got a 9-inch Milwaukee cutoff saw, all battery. So when I walk over there to cut a block, I don't have to restart it. I can just press a button and it's ready to roll. There it is, perfectly level. So if it's level crossways, you know it's going to be plumb. Here I am just kind of building some mini leads before I run the next course. Once I get this wall all the way up, I've already pre-marked back of wall with a yellow crayon at every upright vertical bar, so I know which cells has the steel, and then I'll just cut to fit the rest of the vertical, and I'll drop them in there as I'm filling up the center cores of the block wall. The nice thing about here, this is in Needles, California. Also, Bullhead, Fort Mojave, Mojave Valley, Mojave County in general, no permits needed up to 6-foot high wall. So, you know, you could skimp on this stuff and just throw it in there, you know, and hope it'll last 4 years, you know, but that's probably how a lot of people build them out here. But I'm so used to building them right that I just do it the same way every time. So that trash bag you see there is the paper bags from all the premix. I'm using that to stuff some cells because I'm only filling every 2 foot, and my bond beam's continuous all the way across with the steel in it. So I've got to stuff some holes so my bond beam doesn't drop and do solid grout wall. There's an upper look at that where you can kind of see what's going on. Eric just cut all the rebar to fit, and as he passes them up to me, the buckets, I get it up about halfway or full, and then I slide the vertical down. That way I can get it nice and centered. If you were to drop the verticals first and then do the concrete, your verticals might end up getting pushed against the side of the wall in there. So it's best to put the concrete in first and then drop your vertical right down the middle. Then it's not going to move. Now here's the cap block. You got to be real careful with those cap blocks because they're only 2 inches thick. If you put one down the wrong way or something, it's going to break, which happened to us. I had the exact right amount of cap block. Take a look at that other wall. It was kind of rinky-dink looking, wasn't it? So this is my second job at this particular house. I have a tendency of once I work at one property or for somebody, I end up, if there's more work to do, most likely I'll be doing it. So that completes that first 25 feet. Unfortunately, on these bond beam block, you can see there's a lot of them on a pallet, way too many. You can't break a pallet up. The distributor that I get the block from, they will not break the pallet, so you can just get solid block. You have to get the bond beams that come with. So that means I gotta basically fill them in. You can see how I'm filling the inside edge of these bond beams. That way I don't get concrete running uncontrollably inside the wall when I go to grout. Basically, I just have to put mortar on the areas where it's going to actually have a full cylinder. So every 2 foot, I've got to rework that bond beam on those blocks. Either that or I buy another pallet of concrete, and I mix more concrete. I had a choice. That's the issue with not having the half blocks pre-made. You get those ends like that. Not a big deal, you know, once the next wall goes up. But, you know, in the meantime, you've got, you know, cut block instead of ends. So you notice how I'm working from the other side now, because the pool deck or the existing patio is much higher than this side of the in the alley. So it was easier to work it from the other side. Here comes the grout procedure, same as the first section. We knocked it out. Once we got the footing in first course, we knocked out the entire walls and grout one day. All hand mixed and a nice clean job. Now I have the wrought iron guy, which is only a block from my house, and I go over there. I'm doing a little filming at, you know, him building the wrought iron gate, welding it, fabricating it from raw steel, and you're going to get a chance to see that and me hanging it when it's done. And it's really good quality wrought iron gates they're doing too. It's all powder coated, really durable, so it's not going to rust out in the near future, and you never have to repaint it. All right, that wraps up this job. 7 days later from start to finish. Nice block wall. And then we did this. This little patch is about 3 to 4, the 1/2-inch rebar in there over the existing concrete footing. Here's the other wall right here. See what we did down here? The old footing was good, so I tried to break it out and I couldn't. So it was well done, the footing. The wall, however, was on a slope going down about 4 inches in 25 feet. So what I did was I just built it up. I built up a new foundation on top of the existing, glue epoxy rebar dowels all the way into the new wall, and now it's really nice, solid. We've got double number 4s here for the new wrought iron gate to attach. Then we have a number 4 every 3 cores. So we've got one here, and if you go over 3, 1, 2, 3, another rebar. Each one of these at 2 foot are epoxy doweled 6 inches deep into existing. Over here, brand new footing. There was never anything there to build off of, so in this area we were able to salvage it and just rebuild, and it turned out real nice. But here's a really classic little touch that I did. Notice these caps are in line here. This is one of my signatures that most people won't notice. This is how you know David Odell was here. These ones here, I broke them up, but you know, when I look at it, they got like this lineup over here a little bit better. Let me know in the comments, do you like lined up caps or staggered? Oh, also we have a bond beam, so we have solid grouted cores every 2 foot with 1/2 inch rebar. We also have a 1/2 inch rebar all the way across the top. This whole top block is solid, so if you were to remove the block, you'd see a concrete cylinder every 2 foot attaching to an overhead. All right, that wraps it up. Now I gotta wait for wrought iron. The wrought iron is being fabricated. I may come back and I might have to install it myself. I don't know yet. We'll see. Either way, I'm going to show a little bit of that when it's hung and how to hang it. That way you'll be able to do it yourself. The wall, the wrought iron, you know, the whole package. All right, thanks for watching the video. Make sure you like, share, subscribe. If you have any questions concerning your future project or ongoing project, get me on consultation through my website at Odell Complete Concrete. Thank you. Bye.